Hello everyone and welcome to this land talk. Today I will be talking with my grandfather about the residential area of Pfaffenstein, to which he moved about 50 years ago, and how it changed within these years. Hello and thank you for doing this interview with me. My first question would be, when did you move to this area?
I worked for Scandinavian Airlines System at the head office in Stockholm, and they appointed me as sales manager Switzerland, which meant that we needed a new home, and searched in the surroundings of Zurich and found through an ad from the company Göner a group of houses in construction in Pfaffhausen. And having seen the house almost finished, we bought it and moved in July 1959. At that time, all of those houses between the Zurich Fußweg and the cantonal Zurichstraße and across to the forest to the north of us were finished. On the other side, it was still agricultural land as our plot had been before. The only thing there was meadows and fruit trees at the time. It was fairly steep, so not usable for grain, as were the upper parts where the present Singlenhof lies, which is a much flatter area.
So this area was used agriculturally, you said?
Agriculturally, fruit trees, meadows, and some of the cattle from Singlenhof quite frequently graze on the hillside.
Did you and your family have any use for this area as well?
We could use the area because among the trees you could toboggan quite nicely, and we took ski trips up the hill. The whole landscape in this area was virtually open at the time, so that you could ski directly from the house all the way to across the hill and down towards Lake Zurich. And of course you could also ski down to Fellenden through open areas.
Let's change to this map. This shows the area 10 years later. Can you tell me what changed in those 10 years?
Well, the area immediately above us, a triangular area, was built up by the same architect that had built further up the hill in a construction project called Singlen. The Pfaffenstein Straße, which had been constructed specifically for our housing, was extended by some 60 meters to cover this new area. The rest of it was still the same fruit trees and agricultural country, now less used because the family that owned the country and had sold it for the construction purposes had finished as a farming family and were basically retired. And then in the next 10 to 15 years, Pfaffenstein Straße was then gradually extended all the way almost to Binz Straße. But since there was protests against the further building up of the entire countryside, the project ended at the present footpath that had originally been a farm road, and projected cut through to Binzstraße, to the main road towards Binz, was stopped and never completed.
how would you project then the further development of the area to be in the next decades? Do you propose that there's going to be further expansion of the housing areas, or do you think that as you said, that the expansion is going to stop?
We have two restrictions. There's the Sengenhof, a large area of agricultural country has been left open. Above that is the schoolhouse Bommern, which has land reserves around it, and that will probably remain as it is. Below us is the high tension wires that requires a safety zone, so that countryside is also protected. And beyond the Bindstraße towards the village of Villanden, it has gradually been built up the hill, which of course entailed a much more complicated construction. But the ancient shooting range is still preserved as an open landscape, and there is a horse farm area or horse training area just below that, which I believe will also be reserved. But the rest of the countryside there has been built up, and the village has then continued to expand into the Glatt Valley, almost all the way to the Glatt River. So the Villanden has grown from being, when we arrived, about 4,500 people, now has doubled the number of inhabitants.
On the other side of the village, we see some forested areas. Do you have any knowledge of, is that a protected area as well?
That is protected. That is, both of the forested area are protected Class A, and both to the north of us, or northwest, and to the southeast. So even the new development Benglen, which is part of our community, has been restricted to follow only the lines of the present forest. No more will be constructed there, but up towards the neighboring village of Ebmatting, there has been some developments in that direction, and it is probable that except for a small bit of green area, that will grow together at one point or another.
All right, thank you very much for your time.